just 10 days after Utah stunned Chicago at the United Center. Now, the subplot here, Bulls general manager Jerry Krause telling the Chicago Tribune this may be the end of the Bulls as we know them. Krause stated once again Phil Jackson won't be back next season. And as for Michael Jordan, Krause said, quote, if Michael chooses to leave because there's another coach here, then it is his choice, not ours. We would like to have Michael back, but Michael's going to have to play for someone else. It isn't going to be Phil. So power play or what? Our Brian Burwell asking Jordan about retirement prior to the Bulls-Jazz game.
There's absolutely no room at all for you coming back under any other circumstances?
None at all, and it's not a knock for them. I mean, I think they choose their direction and I choose my direction with an understanding that, this still is a business and they have to do what they have to do to make things work. And, I have to make things work for myself in terms of what makes me feel comfortable. And, I can't say that makes me feel comfortable playing for another coach at this stage in my career.
But the motives of management, what can you do? It's a business. And I think it's a sickening idea of why he want to come out and say this all of a sudden now. We don't need that right now. I mean, he's a smart man, but that's not a smart move right there.
I won't play. I retire totally. It's that simple. It's totally simple. I won't play nowhere else. I won't follow Phil nowhere. I will totally retire. So that clears every question.
Come back here and watch the Jazz.
And what management is saying, Phil is out, then this is my last year.
The viewers of my channel are a lot of hardcore fans of NBA history, and at this point, most hardcore basketball fans know all about Michael Jordan's rocky relationship with the Bulls' former general manager, Jerry Krause. If you've watched the awesome Last Dance series that released about 4 years ago, then you know that this was a massive battle of egos. Simply put, Jerry Krause was one of the greatest NBA executives in the history of the league, as he helped put the perfect team around Jordan that enabled them to win 6 NBA championship rings. Unfortunately, he's also one of the most despised men in Chicago's history, because his supreme confidence in himself had him convinced that he could do it once again, and without Michael Jordan. After the 90s Bulls eventually went separate ways, Krause believed that he could rebuild another dynasty, and hypothetically, in this scenario, he would be the one receiving more of the praise, since he was able to do it with 2 completely different squads. The thing is, that only happened in Jerry's dreams, and not in reality. After the departure of Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, and Phil Jackson, the Bulls became an absolute disaster, as the 98-99 squad finished with only a 13-37 record. They had the worst offense in the entire league, including one night where they only scored a grand total of 49 points against the Miami Heat. Since the introduction of the shot clock in 1954, that is the fewest points ever scored by an NBA team. Not only was Krause wrong about his ability to rebuild another dynasty, but they would never again make the playoffs under Jerry Krause's management. In fact, after Jordan retired from the Bulls for the final time, the organization had an abysmal 93 wins and 280 losses over the rest of Jerry Krause's career. This man wasn't just wrong, but he was about as wrong as you can possibly be. So now let's refocus on Michael. Obviously, after Krause's decision to basically fire Phil Jackson, MJ ended his career in Chicago with a 45-point performance in Game 6 of the NBA Finals, where he won his 6th championship ring and 6 Finals MVPs, which was capped off with what is likely the most iconic shot in basketball history. After spending 3 full seasons away from the game, MJ returned to the NBA. This time, though, as a Washington Wizard. He stepped down from his management role to join his troops, who were one of the worst teams in the entire league. Although Jordan greatly improved the Wizards, his 2 seasons in Washington were greatly affected by injuries, resulting in them missing the playoffs in both seasons. Okay, so now that we know all of this, this is where the video really gets interesting, and where I have an opinion on Jordan's career that I've never heard anyone else share. I absolutely hated the way Jordan's NBA career ended, as his return to Washington meant that Jordan wasn't making his exit on the mountaintop, like we initially thought he did in 1998. But I don't just hate the way it ended in Washington, but I hate the way it ended in Chicago as well. Obviously, that iconic game-winning jumper to win his 6th championship seems like a poetic and beautiful way to end his NBA career. Until you start to think about the fact that MJ was giving Krause exactly what he wanted. He pushed out Phil Jackson and Michael Jordan and now had the opportunity to prove that he was the true star of the Bulls. In a sense, Jerry Krause got the last word. You know when it's hardest to see your ex thriving and happy? It's when she's with someone else. If you ask me, Jordan had the opportunity to stick it to Krause in the most vengeful way possible, and that would have been to join another team for the 1998 to 1999 season and win a championship there, while a jealous Jerry Krause looks on, stewing in the gravity of his mistake. Remember, this is the same Michael Jordan who turned his Hall of Fame speech into a long rant about the guys he successfully got revenge on. MJ making this kind of move right after leaving Chicago would have been right in line with his character, his personality, and honestly, I think it could have further enhanced his legacy. So the question inevitably becomes, where could Jordan have gone to in the 98 to 99 season? Remember, part of MJ's decision to retire was because of the fact that he didn't want to play under a head coach that wasn't Phil Jackson. So theoretically, Phil Jackson would likely have to go to this new team as well. Personally, I think there was the perfect situation for all of this, and that was the New York Knicks. In recent years, New York had tried multiple times to bring MJ on board, so their desire was certainly intact. Numerous times in the past, Michael talked about how special it was to play in Madison Square Garden, and the special relationship he had with the New York Knicks fans. Patrick Ewing was already on that roster, which would have given MJ the opportunity to end his playing career alongside of one of his best friends. But this situation also makes a ton of sense for Phil Jackson. The Knicks were coming off of a somewhat disappointing 43-39 season, and the Knicks head coach Jeff Van Gundy had just recently embarrassed himself during the famous Heat and Knicks brawl in the 1998 playoffs. So I think it was fair to say that his head coaching seat was already starting to get a bit warm. If Jordan is looking to join the Knicks in the summer of 1998, but only under the agreement that Phil Jackson is coming with him to coach the team, then I have no question that New York's management would have created the openings. Yes, in our current reality, Jackson did take a coaching hiatus during the 98 to 99 season. But as a former New York Knicks player who won 2 championships with that franchise, Jackson had a well-known deep love for that organization. If MJ recruited him to come to New York and attempt to win a championship together apart from Jerry Krause, then I honestly really have a hard time seeing Phil turn down that tremendous offer. So let's say that this did happen. What would the Knicks roster look like? Well, with MJ coming in as a scoring wing, I don't think they would feel the need to make the trade for Latrell Sprewell, who was primarily a scorer and was seen as a locker room risk at the time, since he had recently choked his coach in Golden State. This means that the famous New York Knick, John Starks, remains on the roster a little bit longer. In this scenario, I believe the 98 to 99 Knicks lineup would have been Charlie Ward at the starting point, the lethal shooter Allen Houston as the starting 2 guard, an older Michael Jordan would move to the small forward, the 29-year-old Larry Johnson at power forward, and obviously, Patrick Ewing would be the starting center. Coming off the bench as the 6th and 7th men would be the shooting guard John Starks and the shot-blocking center Marcus Camby. This roster, with Van Gundy instead of Jackson and with Sprewell instead of Jordan, finished as the 8th seed and made it all the way to the NBA Finals before being eliminated by the San Antonio Spurs in 5 games. Now with Phil Jackson and Michael Jordan, this team would have been absurdly stacked. And not only do I believe that they would have made it to the NBA Finals, but I honestly think that they had all the tools necessary to defeat the San Antonio Spurs, which would have given Michael Jordan his 7th championship ring, and would have been the perfect way to execute his revenge on Jerry Krause, as MJ gets the last laugh. Truthfully, part of me is surprised that MJ didn't try to do something like this, and basically just let Jerry run them all out of Chicago with no attempt at revenge. To me, that would have been the perfect statement to end Jordan's career, as he would show Krause that he couldn't build another dynasty after Jordan, because at the end of the day, you just can't clone Michael Jordan. So what do you guys think? Do you agree that this would have been a more satisfying way to end Jordan's career? Or do you prefer the Chicago or Washington ending instead? I look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comment section below. Thanks for watching as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more basketball content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.